In the 3rd year of our marriage, I found 9 letters in Shen Xiao's study, written from the battlefield. Each contained only a single word: safe. The replies were sealed with his cousin's private stamp. I remembered the years of war, the constant defeats, the bodies of fallen soldiers carried back by kind villagers, and how I had waited in vain for a single letter from him. My heart broke with worry. I walked dozens of miles of mountain roads just to ask for news of him, only to be tricked by rogue soldiers, escaping with a broken leg. Now, staring at that single, longed-for word, safe, my eyes blurred with tears, and I suddenly laughed. On the day of our separation, Shen Xiao clutched my sleeve, furious. I swear to the heavens, there is nothing between me and Awan. Why must you quibble over a single word? But a single word was enough. At the first light of dawn, I rose to prepare my husband's meal. He was fast asleep. I couldn't help but trace the sharp, strong lines of his brow, so seemingly detached. Only I knew that though his expression was cold, he was a good man. Remembering our frolics from the night before, a blush crept up my cheeks. The moonlight filled the courtyard. Though I was up early, my heart was joyful. Today, I was making a special tonic soup and 5 colored pastries for him. He had just returned from a rotation at the northern camp, where the air was cold and damp. He needed nourishment. The aroma of the food filled the air. The sky was still dark when a commotion erupted outside. The steward opened the gate. I saw a beautiful girl in a green dress, standing in the moonlight and lantern light like a rain-beaten hibiscus, her face streaked with tears. "Uncle Zhong, I am looking for my cousin. I have nowhere else to go," she sobbed. Her eyes swept over me as if I weren't there, and she walked straight in. "And you are?" I asked, an inexplicable unease rising in my heart. She suddenly moved past me and ran, crying toward the person behind me. I turned and saw my husband, Shen Xiao. He had a cloak draped over his shoulders. "Awan, don't worry," he said softly. "Tell me what happened." So this was his long-lost cousin, Lin Wan, who had married and moved far away. They were cousins who had grown up together, their bond naturally deep. She had lost her mother at a young age. It was only right for him to be protective, but I had never heard him speak to me in such a gentle tone. He draped his own cloak over her, her delicate white hands clutched his sleeve. "Cousin, I've been traveling for 3 days. I truly have nowhere else to go. Did I disturb your rest?" she said through her tears. "It is nothing. You know I always wake early. I was just resting my eyes," he said casually. "That is right. You always wake at the same time. When we were children, you used to love to play pranks on me before I was awake," she said, a smile breaking through her tears. I froze. I remembered the time my mother-in-law had wanted an 8 treasure congee. As I was cooking, the clay pot cracked, and the scalding congee spilled all over my hand. I couldn't help but cry out in pain. The maids and servants rushed around, bringing medicine and water. The room was in an uproar. He hadn't even woken up to see what was wrong. He must not have heard. In the inner hall, my mother-in-law, having thrown on a robe, saw Lin Wan, and tears streamed down her face. "My dear Awan, to have run away in the middle of the night. You must have been terribly wronged by your in-laws." Lin Wan's tears flowed again. "It was my foolish husband." Her gaze suddenly fell on me, sitting in the corner. She stopped. Only then did he seem to notice me. "This is your cousin-in-law, Lady Liu." Lin Wan didn't look at me. "Cousin, there is an outsider here. I can't speak." He turned to me. "Liu Tang, go and make a pot of tea." I was taken aback. I slowly stood up, not knowing what to do with my hands. "All right," I said softly. After making the tea, I approached the inner hall and saw her resting her head on my mother-in-law's lap, laughing and talking with him. When he teased her, she playfully pulled out a small hairpin and threw it at him. He shook his head and caught it, a fond smile in his eyes that was so unfamiliar to me. I stared for a moment. The moon still filled the courtyard. But how could this moonlight make my heart feel so heavy? I held the pot of fine tea, listening to their laughter, but I did not go in. Breakfast was a lavish affair. My mother-in-law smiled as she served her a bowl of the tonic soup. Try this. Your sister-in-law made it. Her skills are not the best, but it is good for calming the nerves. Lin Wan took a sip and frowned. It is a far cry from the familiar taste of your cooking, Auntie. My mother-in-law feigned anger and tapped her on the forehead. You are so picky. Tomorrow, I'll make it for you. Then she turned to me. Tomorrow morning, you make the foling buns, and I'll make the soup for a wan. But the buns were complicated and would require me to wake an hour earlier. Lin Wan then smiled at him. Cousin, do you remember when we played house and almost burned down the kitchen, and Auntie spanked us? He gave a faint smile. Just eat your food. It was the liveliest meal I had ever had. Usually, at mealtimes, he would eat in silence, occasionally answering my mother-in-law's questions and almost never speaking to me. I had thought that was just his personality. Since I had married into the family, I had served my mother-in-law diligently. When he was away at war, we had relied on each other for comfort. I had come to love this family, to see her as my own mother, and we would sometimes even joke and laugh together. But I see now that laughter, too, can be so different. She was blood, their bond naturally closer. I was a daughter-in-law, and it was my duty to be filial. It was only right that she had never cooked a single meal for me, even when we were alone. I knew all of this. But my chopsticks moved and I had no appetite. Just then, his 11-year-old brother Shen Shi and a young cousin were chasing each other in the front hall. Lin Wan said, lost in thought. I was like that when I was young, following the person I admired like a little shadow, dreaming of marrying him when I grew up. The little girl's eyes widened. And did you, in the end? I was not so fortunate, she said with a sorrowful sigh, like a beautiful, sad piece of porcelain, moving all who saw her. His fist suddenly clenched. I almost thought I had imagined it. The little girl was mischievous. Was it brother Shen Shao? Lin Wan blushed. You little imp, don't talk nonsense. Shen Shi ran over laughing. Sister Wan Wan and my brother are childhood sweethearts, just like us. She is so beautiful and kind, she would be the perfect sister-in-law. He said nothing, neither confirming nor denying. I sat in the hall surrounded by their laughter and felt utterly out of place. In this big house, why did I feel like I had no ground to stand on? I remembered when he was away, and Shenshi had fallen ill with the plague. I had stayed up all night, feeding him medicine, bathing him. He had clutched my hand and cried, "Sister-in-law is the best." So, was I the best, or would she be the best? Perhaps children were just fickle, saying whatever came to mind. He was on leave today. My mother-in-law ordered, Awan has suffered so much at the hands of those ruffians. She is so pale now, and she used to be such a vibrant girl. Take her to the East Market and buy her some new jewelry. He agreed. I unconsciously looked down at my own rough hands, my skin dull and dark. My father was a wealthy merchant. I too had once been a pampered young lady, but the war had drained our finances. I had to use our money to buy boots and cotton clothes for the soldiers, medicine for my mother-in-law, and to pay for Shenshi's schooling. When the money ran out, I had to wash our clothes, chop firewood, cook, and do needlework to earn extra income. Me gold bracelets and jade hairpins were all pawned. Now, all I had left were these two empty, rough hands. I stared at them, and my eyes began to sting, my chest tightening with a pathetic ache. Suddenly, a hand took mine. I looked up, hiding my tears. His dark eyes met mine. Liu Tang, you should come too. It has been a long time since I have bought you any jewelry. His tone was not gentle, but I couldn't help but squeeze his hand, as if desperately clinging to this shred of warmth. I will do as you say, my husband. In the largest jewelry shop in the East Market, the owner, seeing a distinguished customer, and noticing him holding my hand, eagerly presented a brocade box for me to choose from. My lady, please see the shop's treasure. This gold bracelet is a rare piece from the western regions, especially the lapis lazuli and rubies, a true find. I looked at the bracelet, and my heart skipped a beat. My father had once found me a similar pair from West Asia. I had loved them. I had been so sad after pawning them. I reached for it, but Lin Wan pushed another wooden box forward, taking out a wide, grayish-white jade bracelet, like a rough piece of earth jade. I think this one suits sister-in-law better. Don't you agree, cousin? Try it, he said. Without waiting for my answer, she affectionately placed the bracelet on my wrist. Sister-in-law, this looks wonderful on you, she exclaimed. I looked at the bracelet. My hands were rough, and it was like a large gray stone, uneven and chipped, heavy on my wrist, like a dirty rock on muddy ground. He glanced at it. That one will do. My heart ached. I summoned my courage. I don't like it, but he turned to her. Choose quickly. The shopkeeper, reading the situation, quickly presented the gold bracelet to her. She tried it on, holding it up. Cousin, does this look good? It is fine. What do you mean, fine? She pouted. He sighed. It suits you best. They chose several more gold hairpins, clasps, and necklaces. The shopkeeper, after much flattery, wrapped them in fine silk. He glanced at me. And this lady's bracelet, should I wrap it as well? He said flatly. She does not need it. The heavy jade bracelet knocked against my bone, and a tear welled up. I took it off, placed it on the counter, and turned to leave without a word. He chased after me. I bought you a new bracelet. Why are you unhappy? I couldn't hold back my tears, not wanting him to see. I bit my lip and walked on. From inside the shop, I heard her cry out. Cousin, I am afraid of cats. I didn't turn back, but I knew he had gone back to her. When I got home, I found Shen Shi whispering in my mother-in-law's ear. Mother, is Sister Lin Wan going to be my new sister-in-law? She chuckled. Such a little devil. Don't you like your sister-in-law, Liu Tang? He thought for a moment. I do. She takes care of me and you, but my classmates all laugh at me. Their sisters-in-law are all beautiful and educated. Mine is like an old servant, and she hits me. She tapped him on the head. You ungrateful little rabbit. Liu Tang has worked so hard for our family, and she has been loyal through thick and thin. You must remember her kindness. Then she sighed. Lin Wan and your brother are childhood sweethearts. I did have some thoughts, but even if she joins the family, we must treat Liu Tang well. They will be of equal status. We cannot show favoritism. No favoritism. I stared at the bruise on my wrist from the bracelet. It was growing darker, blurring my vision, and the ache was becoming unbearable. He and Lin Wan did not return until evening. I had no appetite and did not want to see her. I stayed in my room, feigning illness. No one came to check on me. I could hear their laughter from the dining hall, on and on. I sat alone in my room. It felt like a lifetime. It was only when the moonlight streamed through the window that I realized it had only been a day, just a day since I had woken with a joyful heart, preparing a meal for my husband under the moonlight. Why did this one day feel so long and painful? Why did it feel harder to endure than a lifetime? So hard that I clutched my chest, wanting to cry to a family that loved me. But my father was dead. My mother-in-law was not my mother, and my husband was laughing with his childhood sweetheart in his study. My family. Was this my family? If it was, why did the thought of it make me curl up in pain, wanting to hide? When I woke, I saw a brocade box on my pillow. Inside was the gold bracelet from the western regions. Awan meant well when she chose a bracelet for you. But you were unhappy, he said. She doesn't dare to wear this one now and has asked me to apologize. Liu Tang, why are you being so difficult? I stared at it, my heart aching. Shen Shao, do you also think I am only worthy of that ugly stone bracelet? He was taken aback. I don't know the difference between beautiful and ugly when it comes to you women's things. But can a person not tell the difference between stone and gold? I forced myself to ask. And your cousin Lin Wan, when is she leaving? He was angry. She has suffered a great tragedy. We are the only family she has. How can you be so cold-hearted as to not even tolerate a relative? Liu Tang, how could your character be like this? His words were so harsh, as if all the days I had spent caring for his mother and brother, and nearly losing my life for a word of his safety, meant nothing. Tears streamed down my face. I wiped them, but they kept coming. Seeing my state, his voice softened. After Awan's family matters are settled, she will have a place to go. She will not stay with us forever. A young woman in such a difficult situation, it is truly pitiful. As the matriarch of the house, why can you not be a little more tolerant? You and I are one. My cousin is your cousin. A flicker of hope ignited in my heart. Just a cousin. He was surprised. What else could it be? I wiped my tears. My heart a little lighter. He was vague. You do not need to worry about this. I will handle it. That day, my mother-in-law said she was craving pastries from the Dingwangzhai bakery. Not wanting to see them together, I went to buy them myself. The bakery was famous for its date paste cakes, so I bought plenty. When I got home, I arranged them nicely. My mother-in-law happily called Lin Wan over. Your sister-in-law went out this morning to buy these for you. They're your favorite. Have some. Lin Wan glanced at the box and, without warning, burst into tears, sweeping the pastries and dishes off the table. They scattered everywhere, and the dishes shattered. I thought it was an accident and rushed to clean up. It is all right. Be careful not to cut yourself. But she sobbed uncontrollably. Sister-in-law, what have I done to offend you? Why must you deliberately humiliate me? He came over, saw her crying hysterically, and then saw the scattered pastries. He grabbed my wrist, and the pain made me wince. I had never seen him so angry, as if I were a useless servant. Who told you to buy date paste cakes? Liu Tang. How could you be so venomous? I had no idea what was happening. Mother-in-law asked for. She suddenly ran outside. I have been so shamed. My family's scandal is the talk of the town, and now I am being humiliated here. I might as well die. He panicked, threw my hand aside, and chased after her. My mother-in-law followed, scolding me as she went. You foolish thing. Why on earth did you buy date paste cakes? The room was suddenly empty. I looked at the cut on my wrist from a piece of broken porcelain. A thin line of red blood trickled down my rough, dark skin. Was it because it was not obvious that he did not see it? Or did he choose not to? I silently picked up a piece of cake from the floor, blew off the dust, and put it in my mouth. It was still delicious, just a little gritty. So, something that has been in the dust, no matter how much you clean it, will always be gritty. If you never see the cake arranged neatly on a plate, you will not know you are eating something that has been in the dust. If I had never seen how he was with others, I might never have known he could be kind. I carefully bandaged my arm. It was not beautiful, rough and strong, not deserving of pity, but it was still my flesh. Then I went into his study and took out a brush and paper. I did not know many characters, but it was enough. A letter of separation is only a few words. Not like a lifetime, so long. He had never allowed me in his study. But last night, I had clearly heard him and her laughing in there. Awkwardly prepared the ink and paper and wrote the first line. Joined in marriage, with the hope of growing old together. Tears soaked the paper, and I could not hold the brush. When I married him, I was so full of joy, vowing to live a good life together. When I was 16, his family was framed in a political struggle and exiled to the south. The south was humid and full of insects. The sound of coughing from next door was constant. His father had fallen gravely ill and died a few days after their arrival. My father, feeling pity, had me send servants to help with the funeral, repair their house, and send food. I was busy with it all, but he was ungrateful. He was cold to me every day, but his father had just died, so I did not argue. After a few years as neighbors, he still mostly ignored me. So cold. Maybe it was because I always blushed and smiled foolishly when I saw him, and he was embarrassed. But he was so handsome, I couldn't help it, until my father died, and my uncles conspired to take my family's land and home. They cornered me in the ancestral hall, trying to force me to marry the village idiot. I refused, and they tried to tear my clothes and ruin my reputation. It was he who came. He stood in front of me, and my great-uncle's heavy cane struck him on the head. Blood trickled down his temple. I cried and asked if it hurt, but he just gently touched my head. In that moment, I felt something bloom in my heart, and it wouldn't stop fluttering. I understood then that he was just cold on the outside, but his heart was good. He had suffered so much, a wanderer his whole life. I vowed to be good to him for the rest of my life. After we were engaged, he enlisted in the army. He fought bravely and won great merit, finally earning the court's recognition. On the day of his reward, the emperor asked what official post he desired, but he said he wanted none. He only asked for two things. First, to clear his father's name. Second, for an imperial edict for his marriage to his betrothed. His words won the admiration of the entire court. It was said that the emperor had even considered offering him a princess, but he remained firm in his choice of his humble fiancée, who had stood by him through hardship. To be granted a marriage by imperial edict was a great honor. I, the daughter of a humble merchant, had received such deep affection from him. The hand holding the brush trembled. My heart was full and aching. I did not know how to continue writing. It was like tearing something out of my heart, so painful. He did have feelings for me. The paper was soaked through. As I changed it, my eyes were drawn to an exquisite box on the bookshelf. It was clearly a treasured object. The box was ajar, revealing a thick stack of yellowed paper, with the faint words "family letters." After he went to war, the letters he sent me were few. Where did all these come from? Who were they for? Unease grew in my heart. I trembled as I pulled them out. It was his handwriting. No other words, just a single, simple safe. The replies were also wordless, just sealed with his cousin's private stamp. They were so in sync, no words were needed. I counted them, again and again, 9 letters. I remembered the years of war, the constant defeats, the bodies of fallen soldiers carried back by kind villagers, and how I had waited in vain for a single letter from him. I waited and waited. I prayed to the heavens. Was he alive or dead? Was he injured? Was his leg still hurting? Did he have enough blankets? Enough? My heart broke with worry. I walked dozens of miles of mountain roads just to ask for news of him, only to be tricked by rogue soldiers, escaping with a broken leg. Now, staring at that single longed-for word, safe. My eyes blurred with tears, and I suddenly laughed. What I had yearned for, another had received so easily. In a brothel, with 3 women, he had been fed pastries while in the throes of passion, and had choked to death on a piece of date paste cake. His subordinates, not knowing the cause, thought it was a murder related to the corruption case and reported it. The matter blew up, and her husband was carried out, stark naked. Such a scandal, he said. The people of the capital are calling him the naked date paste cake official. How could she not lose her composure when she saw your cakes? I said coldly. How was I to know? You never told me. It is not your fault, he said. Go and apologize to Awan. Tell her it was an accident. This matter will be over. And in the future, you must not be so reckless. Be more considerate of her. I just handed him the letter of separation I had written. He opened it impatiently, glanced at it, and laughed. Are you throwing a tantrum? I am busy with military affairs. I have no time for your games. Go and apologize to Awan and calm her down. I held back my tears. I am serious. Seeing that I was not joking, his expression finally changed. For such a small matter, you want a divorce. Do not forget the marriage was granted by imperial edict. Do you think that is a joke? Liu Tang, how have you become so willful and strange? Are you possessed? I laughed. It was absurd. He tore the letter to pieces. The next day, I did not get up to make breakfast. I slept until the sun was high. I heard my mother-in-law comforting her. Your sister-in-law Liu Tang is a bit small-minded. She is just having a tantrum. Don't mind her, Shenxi said. She doesn't even cook anymore, so lazy and unreasonable. If any of my classmates' mothers were like that, they would have been divorced long ago. My mother-in-law said, let her be. The older she gets, the more foolish she becomes. We are going to your uncle's for a visit this afternoon. Out of sight, out of mind. Shen Shao help Lin Wan. She caught a chill by the river and might get sick. He replied flatly. All right, Xiao Tao, bring another coat for a Wan. They bustled about. Lin Wan said, I'll go check on my cousin-in-law. I've saved some food for her. He said coldly. Let her be. She won't starve. She is getting more and more out of line. Lin Wan knocked on my door but did not enter. Cousin-in-law, she whispered with a giggle. There are some leftovers on the table. They were for my cousin's dog. But you can have them if you are hungry. I threw a vase at the door. She laughed and went back to my mother-in-law. It is all right. She is right to be angry with me. It didn't hit me, she grumbled. Such a mad woman, brother. What has happened to her? She is so scary. The noise faded. The world was quiet again. I stood up and paced my room like a caged animal. I have to leave. I have to leave, but I have nowhere to go. A woman without a family to support her. The world is so big, but I feel there is no place for me. I wrote another letter of separation, complete and with my handprint. Then I packed a bag and walked out. Only one thought in my mind: leave this house. No matter where I go, even if the next place is a dragon's den or a tiger's lair, I cannot stay here any longer. Even if I have to throw myself into the Jinghuai River, I cannot stay. In the street, people were gathered, talking excitedly. They were waiting to see the newly appointed General Hongying Kuhi. She is our great Qi's first female general. The emperor holds her in high regard. She is a brilliant strategist. Another scoffed. Women are weak. They should just stay home and be wives and mothers. How can they lead an army? I looked up and saw a woman on a tall horse, holding a silver-tasseled spear looking magnificent. I was in a daze. The crowd pushed me into the street. At that moment, a wooden sign from a shop above fell, crashing onto the road. Her horse, startled, reared up, ready to bolt. The hooves were about to crash into my chest. With nowhere to go, I closed my eyes. The woman suddenly pulled hard on the reins with one hand, controlling the horse, while her other hand soothed its mane. The horse, held by both force and gentleness, calmed down. I stared, mesmerized. She dismounted and helped me up. Are you all right? Her voice was not rough, but very gentle. She was a woman. How could she be so majestic, so powerful, so strong? No one would dare to look down on her, to insult her, to speak to her carelessly, to ignore her, to bully her. They looked at her as they would a man. Had she ever been like me, hoping for someone to stand up for her? Hoping for someone to save her? Had she ever been without a path to take? My heart was filled with despair. I don't know why. Perhaps I had truly gone mad, but I let out a crazed sob, covering my face and shaking, my voice trembling. Why? She sighed, waved away her soldiers, and dispersed the crowd. It was not until I was in the general's residence that I realized it might all be a dream. Have you been greatly wronged by your in-laws? She asked kindly. I trembled and couldn't stop my tears. I never would have thought that the first person to ask me this would be a female general I had never met. That Shen Shao? I remember him, she said, a hint of contempt in her eyes. When he was under my command, I thought him a schemer. You say you are grateful that he used his military merit not for a title, but to marry you. Then let me ask you, what is his official position now? Her words were like a hammer blow. I was suddenly awake, connecting the dots, and a chill ran through me. A few days later, with her support, I opened a breakfast stall. After years of cooking for the Shen family, and with my own love of experimenting, my various breakfast items were very popular. And soon, a long line formed in front of my stall every day. The Shen family did not look for me until the 15th day, when I heard that he had worn the wrong court robes and had been scolded by the emperor. He had returned home in a rage and sent people to find me. I was not hard to find. I did not hide. He stood before my stall, saw the long line of customers, and his face turned ashen. Lu Teng, you have truly gone mad. Instead of serving your mother-in-law at home, you are here, making a spectacle of yourself. Where am I to put my face? Get back home! I continued to make my crystal dumplings, ignoring him. His face darkened. And you dare to leave me a letter of separation? Liu Tang, I truly regret using my military merit to ask for our marriage. You are not worthy of such a gesture. I finally couldn't hold back. You used your military merit for two things: to clear your family's name, and to ask for my hand. Because you knew that with the war over, even if you got a title, you would be a marginalized military official, and clearing your family's name would be nearly impossible. But by doing so, the world would praise your filial piety. And by marrying your long-suffering fiancé, even the scholars who had looked down on you would praise your loyalty. The emperor himself praised you as a model of loyalty and filial piety. In just 2 years, you rose faster than any of your comrades who had been rewarded for their military service. A 3-for-1 deal. Who wouldn't praise that? He suddenly froze, his eyes wary. Who told you this? Who have you been seeing? I shook my head. Thinking back, it is I who misjudged you. You are nothing more than a petty man. He looked as if he had been insulted and tried to block my stall. Liu Tang, what more do you want? You are crude and shallow, yet I gave you the position of matriarch. Do you know that with your background and looks, you were only fit to be a concubine? I sneered. Yes, my looks are not as good as Miss Lin Wan's. Then let us separate. You can marry your Awan and make her the matriarch. Why pretend to be just cousins? Go and be husband and wife, and stop disgusting people here. He was furious. Fine, fine. There is nothing between me and Awan, yet you accuse us like a jealous madwoman. You think I dare not marry her? I will go back and make her my wife, and by law, you will have to arrange it. He tried to drag me home but was stopped by the customers in line and had to leave. A few days later, I heard that Shenxi had gotten into a fight at school with the Prime Minister's young son. Lin Wan went to handle it. Seeing the Prime Minister's wife in simple clothes, with a rough appearance, she looked down on her, mocking her for being a fishmonger's daughter, crude and unable to raise a child. She probably thought that the Prime Minister treated his wife as he treated me, that a wife of humble origins and fading looks was no more than a worn-out servant, undeserving of any respect. But the Prime Minister adored his wife. He was not only furious but also took the matter to the Emperor, crying that his wife had been so insulted she had not spoken to him in 3 days. The Emperor immediately demoted him. Shenxi had been mischievous before, and when he got into trouble, I would first give him a good caning and then make him apologize, which would always diffuse the situation. When he came to me again, his collar was askew. The house has been in an uproar since you left, he said coldly. Shenxi was expelled from school. Can you bear to see him waste his life? He is your brother, not mine, I said. His eyes fell on the wontons at my stall. Give me a bowl. Pay up, I said. He reluctantly paid and sat down to eat. I wanted to punish Shenxi, but my mother was beside herself. I scolded Awan a little, and she tried to kill herself again. I haven't had a proper meal in days. Tang Tang, stop this nonsense. Come home. He said this rare, considerate thing and waited for me to fall into his arms and make up, as I always had. But I just laughed. You are just remembering that I am a useful servant. His chopsticks stopped. When will you stop this? It was my mother's idea to bring her into the family, not mine. We were just childhood friends with a fond memory of each other. There was never anything more. I packed up my stall. Whether you marry her or not has nothing to do with me. If she hadn't come, I would have never seen my own position clearly. Master Shen signed the papers. He finally dropped the act. Liu Tang, I have been too lenient with you. The marriage was granted by imperial edict. If I divorce you, how can I continue my official career? A few days later, the authorities said my food had made someone sick, shut down my stall, and confiscated all my earnings. I knew this was his way of forcing me to submit, a helpless woman, at his mercy, who would have to crawl back to that house and cook for him. I did enjoy cooking, but I would never go back to that house. That house suffocated me. The next day, the story of how Master Shen had allowed his future noble concubine to bully his wife spread through the court. Coincidentally, the female lead in this story was the same as in the recent naked date paste cake scandal, and the same as in the scandal where the Prime Minister's wife was insulted, and the matter was brought before the emperor. And so, this Lin Wan became famous in the capital. Everywhere she went, she was the subject of whispers. Favoring a concubine over a wife was not uncommon. But he had once given up a title for his wife, had even refused a princess. Now, the hypocrisy was too much. The scholars who had once supported him were embarrassed. The princess he had rejected was now laughing at him with her husband. He tried to argue that she was not his future concubine, just a relative seeking refuge. But his mother had told many of her friends that there was to be a wedding in the family, that he was finally marrying his childhood sweetheart. And he himself had declared in front of a long line of people at my stall that he would marry her, and that I would have to arrange it. His defense was useless. He was demoted 3 ranks, and the emperor ordered him to sign a letter of release for his wife. I heard that in court he had gritted his teeth and said, "I will accept the demotion, but I will never sign the letter." And so he received 20 strokes of the military cane, he sneered as she described his pathetic state. I think he is addicted to the drama. He knows that if he agrees to the separation now, his career and reputation will be ruined. You wait. I'll go and add more fuel to the fire with the emperor. The letter of separation arrived on a calm, sunny afternoon. Under the pressure of an imperial edict, he threw the paper, signed by both of us, and witnessed by our clans, onto my table. Liu Tang, just because Lin Wan came and took some of our attention, "You want to leave me?" he asked, his eyes red with disbelief. "I saw 9 letters in your study. You sent her word that you were safe, but not a single one to me," I said, calmly folding the paper. "There was only 1 word on them," he cried out in frustration. "For that 1 word, I nearly lost my life. I know you love me deeply. Why must we come to this?" he said, incredulous. "Over a few stupid letters and 1 word. You want to destroy our family? 1 word is enough. Liu Tang, you are cruel. You chased me, cared for me, made me accustomed to your presence, and now you want to leave for no reason. You are deliberately trying to harm me," he said through gritted teeth, as if I were the unfaithful one. He left, a disheveled and pathetic figure. Later, he made a mistake at court and was impeached. Few spoke up for him, many stepped on him. He was demoted and sent back to the south. Before he left, he came to my stall for a bowl of wontons. I had a policy of not turning away customers. I had my assistant cook him a bowl and packed up to go home. "It doesn't taste right. You didn't make it," he said suddenly, his voice strained. "I sold out of what I made. My assistance is 1 cent cheaper," I said cheerfully, counting my money. He sighed. "If I told you that I am not doing well without you, would you be happy?" I continued counting, ignoring him. "My personality is withdrawn and sullen, and my colleagues dislike me more and more. I used to have you to comfort me, but now everything goes wrong. I drove Lin Wan away. She cried and called me heartless and hit me over the head with a vase. I slapped her in a fit of anger, so much for childhood affection. My mother's illness has gotten worse. The servants can't stand her temper and cut corners, only putting on a show. Shen Shi is running with a gang of thugs, already frequenting brothels at his young age. His life is being wasted." Seeing my indifference, his eyes darkened. Tang, I am going back to the south. Actually, I am happy to go back. My days in the south were my happiest. You were always trying to cheer me up, so righteous, so lively. Always by my side, and I forgot all my sorrows. I was arrogant, accustomed to your care, thinking you were meant to serve me for a lifetime, and never taking you to heart. I sighed. "Shen Shao, I am closing up." He stood up, looking lost. Tang, I only have 1 last thing to say. When I protected you at the ancestral hall, I truly did not want you to be bullied." I nodded politely. "I know, please leave." Watching his constantly retreating back, I remembered his words. When he saved you at the ancestral hall, how much of it was genuine, and how much was for your father's property? Didn't that property, as your dowry, all end up being spent on the Shen family? A man like him, His one part of sincerity is wrapped in 9 parts of self-interest, and he has to present that one part as a great injustice and believe it himself. I lowered the awning, thinking about what to make for breakfast tomorrow. The first light of dawn, another day of waking under the moonlight. But tomorrow's moonlight, I was sure, would be full and beautiful, and bring joy to my heart.